One of the basics of vectors is understanding how to find a perpendicular vector to something that we start with. And so in this case here, if we are given vector n is 3, -2, we want something that has the same magnitude but is perpendicular to vector n. And it's kind of a little trick to this, similar to when we are using like negative vectors instead of just like distributing in a negative. We're going to talk about switching the values here and then changing one of their signs, because I want to show you kind of what happens when we take this vector and do a couple different things to it. So the first one is we have a vector of 3, -2. So 1, 2, 3 to the right and 2 down. Now, if I were to make both of those negative, right? A negative vector does not make something perpendicular, because a negative vector would just give me the opposite direction. So, right, I would go, let's say here, 1, 2, 3 units to the left and 2 units up. Now I have a perpendicular line, sorry, a parallel line, not perpendicular. Now, something cool is if you notice, actually, let's keep that. Something cool if you notice when we switch them. So let's say we did -2 and 3 and see what that does. So let's start it, I don't know, maybe like right here. And I go 2 to the left and 3 up. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Well, that's not super helpful because it's not parallel. It's also not perpendicular though, because again, if we were to like continue these lines, we would see that they'd eventually intersect. So not parallel, not perpendicular, doesn't make a 90-degree angle. But if we make just one of these terms the opposite, so let's make it +2, +3. What we'll see then is if I start here and I go 2 to the right, 1, 2, and up 3, 1, 2, 3, now that makes a 90-degree angle. And so let me redraw the original again. So it's 1, 2, 3 to the right, 2 down. If I were to switch the two values and make it -3 instead, same idea here. If I start here, 1, 2 to the left, 1, 2, 3 down, this makes a perpendicular intersection here. And so really the trick here is if we're ever trying to find perpendicular vectors, we're going to take our original, we're going to switch the horizontal and vertical components and change the sign of one of them. And again, whether I did the green one here where I was going up and to the right, or the orange one here going down and to the left, those are two opposite vectors. And so we see that they still make a perpendicular line. They're just pointing in different directions. So there's really two different lines that have the same magnitude, or two different vectors that have the same magnitude, that create a perpendicular or 90-degree angle with our original vector.